Awesome. Awesome. But I mean, yeah, let's start from the beginning. I believe started working in August. Do you remember like kind of what you were doing before that in terms of like marketing and advertising?
You know, it's strange the dynamic of owning a business. So at that time, my phone was ringing off the hook, but it wasn't ringing for the types of jobs I wanted. Plenty of activity. As I told you, I then got associated with somebody else, and I just don't think he did a good job. I know he didn't do a good job, right?
Yeah.
So the funny thing now is that for me, I would say my average job is probably 60 to 75K,
Hmm.
right? But for my percent of my business is probably lines of equity based, right? HELOCs, home equity lines. Well, home equity lines were 6 and 7% for the last 10 years, 5%, 8%, bad credit 9%. They're fucking 15 now, 14, 16, 17, depending on your score. So I think for me, what's happening is people are still active in social media. They're a little numb to cost. Your leads are. I have more activity now because I think that my traditional phone calls, referral networks, so on and so forth, people don't have cash 50, 60, 75 grand, not in the Denver guy live, right? This isn't Beverly Hills, right?
Yeah.
So because people are not accessing lines of credit, my phone has stopped ringing in the traditional sense. Most of the appointments I'm getting now are yours. Most of the business I'm getting right now is yours, right?
Yeah.
But the good news is I just opened up a secondary company for the cabinets, so we'll be able to start advertising under, I forget the name, Dream Style Kitchens.
Dream style
So we'll be
kitchens.
able to start advertising under Dream Style Kitchens soon and give personal touch of rest until we saturate Dream Style Kitchens, right?
Yeah. And so far, I mean, working since August, what are the results that you've achieved like from our services?
Um, I think the overall appointment volume has been much better than expected. I think because of the previous answer with what's happening with my traditional business, I think my business as a general contractor in my market, it's certainly not unique. Everybody has the same problem, right? But there's markets that are much better right now. Like, my buddy in Miami is jamming.
Mm.
My buddy in Tampa is jamming. My buddy in Jacksonville is dead. So I do think that there's some demographics to it. So the overall volume of the appointments was much better. I think that I've gotten probably more business than I would have expected. I
Yeah.
got more business than I expected, but I still don't have a license. You know, try doing my business without a license, right? License to drive. It's a nightmare, right? Um, so the volume has been exceptionally better than I thought. I've certainly captivated business from it, no doubt. I think that if I had a little bit more flexibility right now with pricing, I could capture more business, and that's an internal thing. But I think if I was in the market for a contractor, I would probably think the same way. I would want either my neighbor, somebody that was in my sphere of influence, another doctor that had
Mm.
come in contact with somebody, but I don't think I would go out on a Messenger or TikTok or whatever platform, right? So I think that's that's probably the big thing that I've lost in my phone not ringing is that was my clientele. You know, now I pay guys to do a premium job with that clientele. So again, it's hard. Asking my guys for pay cuts is one thing because my guy's skill set is better than 90% of the contractors out there. We do a better job. We're better. We're better than the rest. We're better than most. So it's kind of it's a catch-22, but we've got to navigate it. We've got to figure it out because I'm just simply not doing enough business. But
Mhm.
that's not a Canaan thing. That's a company thing.
Yeah, yeah, that did. I appreciate it. As far as like do you know by chance, like a ballpark, even like the exact ROI you've gotten from the service, or in terms of
Yes.
sales?
I can tell you gross volume, but because I don't do my K1s or my Schedule Cs, I do them quarterly.
Mm.
I would probably know for the first quarter, but that's a bad gauge because it was the holidays. In gross sales, I've probably done here, let me tell you.
I just always love to hear like specific numbers because I'm working on my own Google sheet where I calculate how much everybody's done from our service, and I can kind of make tweaks from
So gross sales, I'm doing about 31,000 a month right now.
gross. Gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, probably about 100, close to 190 in gross sales so far.
190.
And what are we at? 5 months, 6 months? Where are we at?
Yeah, since August. So
Now, keep in mind, though, you got to really remove. I mean, you got to remove the tail end of November, December, and the first. You got to remove 2 months from that. In this business, I mean, I'm not in anybody's house tearing their shit apart from Thanksgiving to the second week of January. It just doesn't happen. So you
yeah,
can remove 2 months from that. So if you remove 2 months from that, August, so I mean, a year more, so 7, so yeah, 31,000 a month. I mean,
okay.
that's a good job though. I mean, a $31,000 job is, 2 or 3 guys for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
You're providing, probably, I mean, you're probably providing, it's 150 manpower hours a month.
yeah, that's not bad.
And when you break it down that way, you might be looking for that big number, but when you break it down in terms of manpower hours, it's a lot. It's 2.5 guys busy for half the month.
Yeah,
So let's say, let's annualize that. 3 times 12. I mean, that's still $620,000 a year. Do you know how many business owners would like to open up this year and do 600K their first year?
yeah.
Everybody, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know if you think that that's underachieving or overachieving, but at the end of the year, it's 600 annually.
Yeah, I think it's good, especially with like how much that's going to spending towards advertising, and then actually how much that advertising is actually producing. Especially like for me, for my what I sell tends to is a lot less lower ticket than a full kitchen project. So when I'm advertising right now, it's pretty often that maybe the first 2 months I go in the red, and I have to rely on like the MRR, the monthly recurring revenue, to really kind of pick back up.
Mhm.
So yeah, I definitely consider that good. And especially with talking to some other guys, the kind of trend I've noticed is like a lot of guys haven't kind of recovered since COVID. Maybe they were doing 1 mil, and then after COVID, they were like 400K. And then now they're just like, I'm just trying to keep my head above water.
Well, I think that, what I said earlier, there's some truth to that's man, and it's not the land. Like there's some truth to that. You know, you find somebody that's successful and somebody that's a winner, you can generally drop him off in the middle of fucking Timbuktu and he'll make it work, right? So I mean, there's a lot to that. I mean, I had to completely change my mojo post COVID, completely, So from advertising to branding to supplies on hand to pay scale to, I mean, everything. So I think there's a lot of guys, older guys, that are kind of set in their ways. They're not technology driven. I just think that those guys are the guys that will struggle. And then you have the guys that are just inexperienced. They don't understand the numbers in their business enough to make effective changes. I'm old, but I'm not that old, but I've been doing this long enough to understand the numbers, So I'm probably in that lane there, right? But if you didn't make changes after COVID, you're fucked. Like you're toast. You'll tread for a while, but if we don't have a change in November, right? Not to get political, because I think both of those guys are dopes. But if we don't have a change in November, and inflation keeps the way it is, and the Fed says it's going to raise the rate another half a point, next month, if something doesn't change, I mean, guys like that, they're done. They're done by the end of the year. I had a lady contact me about a month ago. I ran across her father about 5 years ago, and I helped him out with something. The guy was a master home builder. He only built stuff $5 million and above, right? So his daughter wants to do a major project in his house, and all the contractors in the city, this dude who's been retired for 5 years now called me. So I just landed his daughter's house. It's a $247,000 job. Okay. The daughter just gave me the neighbor. The neighbor is probably going to contract me for a bigger job because she wants her house to be nicer than the neighbor's now. The doctor, the next house out. So bing, 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 5 million, 5 million, 5 million. This father built all 3 of these houses right next to each other. The doctor calls me last week and says, I understand you're doing a neighbor's house. Why don't you come out and see me next week? So I don't know what's going to happen there, but if I land all three of these jobs, I probably won't be able to take an appointment, right? Because I mean, you'll have three houses, you'll have $600,000-700,000 in business right away, and it'll take my entire team, entire focus, right? So, this happens. This type of anomaly doesn't happen very often. It does, but for me, it's the right demographic, it's the right type of clientele, it's the right type of person, and if you get two out of the three, you don't have to get three out of the three, but those two will turn into somebody else because it's a really tight knit circle when you get into that price range, right? Like, the Joneses don't hang with the Joneses. The Joneses hangs with I don't know, I can't even think of somebody, but they don't hang with the Joneses, right? They hang with the Kardashians. But I think that you've done, what you've done for my business at this point in time is invaluable. It's invaluable. Even though it's 31,000 a month, it's probably 50% of my business right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go from a couple million to probably $750,000 right now. Now I land these jobs and we're back up to 1.5 million right away, right? But it's a different world. I had to make changes after COVID. I'm probably going to have to make changes again, mostly internal. So that's just where we're at.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And like you said, I could think of a lot of guys who I've had calls with who would be more than happy with getting an additional 31,000 per month.
And I think I think that, quite honestly, if I wasn't built a certain way, my guys weren't built a certain way, we didn't provide a certain type of product, that would be a lot higher. If there's probably a lot of guys you deal with, if they had the same activity, might do better. But I'll say this, right? I'm going to pat myself on the back. I'm pretty good in the house in front of people.
Yeah.
I'll put myself in the house with converting appointments to just about anybody, man. I mean, I really, if I get in and they can afford me, like, they don't get away, So, I mean, I have a lot of, on my personal appointments, I told you the get-go, the norm in this business is 20 or 30%, man. I'm 20 or 30% on your job, but I'm 80 on mine, or 90. I mean, just about everybody I see, when they call me, they're done. They should just write a check when I show up and let's get on with it. But I'm probably 30% converting on yours. So I work a lot harder, but again, I have to understand that this is what you bring me. This is what it is. It's not a knock on you. It's what this platform allows.
Yeah, that's, with advertising leads, 30% is really good. We like to, as long as it's above 10%, because usually, we can easily get more than 10 appointments a month. So if it's above 10%, we're happy with it. But 30% is really good.
10%. You cut my arms and legs off, I'll do 10%. But it's just, in the house, there's a certain art to that. When you talk, when you don't talk, when you slam dunk them, when you hug them, because when I go on these appointments, like these kitchen appointments, man, there's a lot of times I walk away from electrical and plumbing and AC for major remodels, and I have a sense that I can sell them the cabinets, but I have a sense that they can't afford me, that they're looking for Johnny's, immigrants that are unlicensed, uninsured, to come in and save them a buck. But when they find out I'm a general contractor, oh, well, then you can do this and you can do that. Yeah, I can, but right now that portion of my business is booked 100 years from now. You got 100 years to wait, no problem. If you don't have 100 years, then I'll be happy to get you cabinets, right? So you have to be smart about it. The in the house is a whole nother science.
Yeah, totally. Hey, Jeff, I guess my last question would be, how likely, if there was somebody maybe on the fence, like how likely are you to kind of recommend us to maybe another general contractor or modeler?
Do I really have to answer that?
No.
Come on.
You don't.
No, of course. I don't have enough interaction with my buddies like that, where I don't push you on them, but organically, if it was to come up, I'd say, hey man, I can help. I don't know how much I can help, but I can help, right? Like, here's the phone number, but yeah, of course, as long as they're out of my area, I don't, fine, obviously, but But yeah, I mean, I've spoken to Wade a little bit about you. Wade is who I learned this business from. Wade is 71 years old now. I think that Wade is one of these guys. He fights this platform, right?
Mhm.
Like, he can't even spell Facebook. He's half dead. Um, but it would help. It would help his business. He just doesn't know, and I don't know that he can embrace the concept. I don't know that he can embrace not talking to everybody firsthand. And he's old school, man. The guy, he got his license 52 years ago.
Yeah.
He was the sixth guy in the state of Florida to get a GC license, number six, and there's over 100,000 now. So he's just like, he drums to the tune of a different drummer, you know. But yes, of course, I absolutely would. I have given your name to a friend of mine that's moving here from New York, and he's going to be setting up shop in Jacksonville, but he's not coming to August. But I know he'll use it. I would imagine he'd probably contact you June to get things rolling